Chapter 3. A Byproduct of Mischief. Val and Dirk were chained behind a horse and carriage. Everyone in the streets mocked and taunted them, hurling rotten fruit and vegetables along with their insults. A tomato splattered on Val's face, and juice was stuck in his ear. Man, why do they always have rotten fruit and vegetables to throw at prisoners? Dirk used the slack in his chains to dodge the rot as best he could. Guards followed directly behind them with swords drawn, keeping just enough distance between them so as not to get covered in the liquid cheese that was just thrown. "So where are you taking us anyways?" Dirk questioned loudly, giving Dirk a push with his boot. "To the castle dungeon for the two of you. Now shut up and walk," a generic guard yelled. The dungeon was in the main castle at the center of the city. The castle was the tallest structure, with towers that grasped at the sky with their flags flowing proudly at their peaks. A large moat surrounded the city, keeping all the local riffraff out. Panic crept over Val as he imagined himself being beaten and tortured for nothing. "We didn't kill that guy. He just fell for some stupid reason," he shrieked. From the carriage, West shot back an evil look that pierced into the heart of the muscle-bound half-elf. "Dirk, you've been a bad boy. You know what you done, don't ya?" Dirk's head hung down low. A serious look darkened his face. Val looked at him. "Dirk, what did you do?" Dirk thought back. 2 days ago. It was night out and clouds filled the sky. Rain was pouring down like a shotgun full of water. Thunder and lightning crashed through the skies. "So, it was a dark and stormy night. Gee, now lay off." Dirk was sitting under a tree in the fields just outside the walls of Nywheel. A small company of soldiers marched out in the rain, their course plotted in the direction of Dirk, probably on their way back to the city. Dirk thought to himself, now this could prove interesting. So, he climbed the tree and hid in the branches. The company of what appeared to be about 50 or so soldiers in full plate mail with swords sheathed marched close to the tree and halted. Then they all turned to the left and stood at attention. Dirk stood up and balanced circumspectly on the tree branch without making a sound. He then proceeded to turn around with his backside facing them. The guards still didn't notice him, so he then proceeded in unbuckling his belt and unbuttoning his pants. He turned to look to see if they had noticed him yet, but luckily they hadn't. So, he continued to pull down his pants and undergarments. He almost busted a gut trying to hold in his laughter and accidentally let out a giggle. He froze and looked at the soldiers. They were still standing at attention while the drill sergeant walked from soldier to soldier, but he still didn't notice Dirk. So, Dirk proceeded to turn around with pants down and started to relieve himself on a couple of the soldiers' heads. Luckily it was raining, so no one could tell except the drill sergeant. He had spotted him. And he didn't look so happy. "Get him. Get that fool and arrest him," he yelled. All the soldiers drew their weapons and charged at Dirk, attempting to strike him with their swords. Some of them started chopping at the tree with their swords in an attempt to cut it down. It was working. "Oh crap, I gotta get out of here," Dirk said to himself as he did up his pants and jumped to the next tree. All the soldiers stared at him as Dirk moved at blinding speed, leaping from tree to tree. Then he dropped to the ground with elven grace, touching the ground running at full tilt for the forest nearby, and lost them amongst the trees. Present day. Val was giving Dirk such a stare. Dirk looked back at him with a wild eye as if to say, "Yeah, and?" "What?" "I was bored, okay?" Dirk pleaded. Val looked onwards to the main castle gates. They were huge, wooden, steel-enforced doors, which were about 3 stories high. A feeling of dread sunk into the pit of his stomach. The doors opened with a loud creaking noise, and the carriage pulling our heroes entered through the gates. "What do you mean you were bored?" West barked in anger at Dirk. Bored, uninterested, tired of frequent exposure or indulgence. Tired of the world, bored with life. You know, bored. He shrugged. "West, now off the carriage, walked up to Dirk and got right in his face. "Well, what about that brutal attack on the tree, or did you forget that too?" 2 days ago, again. It was night out and clouds filled the sky. Rain was pouring down like a shotgun full of water. Thunder and lightning crashed through the skies. So, it was a dark and stormy night, all right? I'm serious, you know. Dirk was sitting under a tree in the fields just outside the walls of Niweel. A small company of soldiers marched out in the rain, coming towards Dirk. He reached for a twig on the ground, found one and aimed it at the marching army, and he let it fly. The twig soared through the air with expert accuracy and speed. It bit into the neck of the first guard it found. "Aw crap," Dirk muttered under his breath as the guard dropped to the ground, completely limp as blood poured from the wound of the relentlessly penetrating twig. Man down, medic," it found. Wes turned to see his dead comrade, twig and all, then noticed Dirk running away. That damn elven bastard. Wes charged towards Dirk with the company following closely behind. This is not happening. This is just not happening. Dirk scrambled up the nearest tree to avoid being captured. "He's mine." Wes took sword in hand and started climbing after Dirk. "I'll get you. This time your ass is mine." Dirk reached for his trusty bow and notched an arrow. Quick, think of an insult. "Yeah, well, your mom." Dirk let go, watching his arrow fly onward towards West in an effort to spook him. The arrow narrowly missed his face, just as it was meant to, and ricocheted off a branch, sending it straight into the trunk of the tree. Though not before first stopping to bite through West's leg, pinning him to the large oak. Oh my. That wasn't what I had in mind. Dirk leapt from tree to tree, escaping from his impending doom, leaving the shouts of the army behind him. Present day. Back at the castle, Wes looked at Dirk with growing impatience. He motioned for Dirk to continue. "Yeah, go on, Dirk, tell the whole story." "Then what happened?" "Yesterday. There he goes. I saw him run down that alley," one of the generic guards yelled. Dirk ran up behind a bum that was walking down the alley. "Sorry, I'm gonna need these." He mistakenly punched the bum on the back of the head. "Aw, come on, you must be kidding me, of all the rotten luck." Mulling over the rags, Dirk hastened his flight and continued down the alley. The generic guard followed Dirk but stopped at the fallen bum. He killed the old bum with the shit-stained clothes. "Look out for the perp donning shit-stained clothes," he yelled out at the two guards approaching from the other end of the alley. He then continued pursuit. Dirk noticed the approaching guards and quickly climbed up a nearby fire escape. Jumping from rooftop to rooftop, Dirk looked for the next easy way out. Leaping over to another building, a grappling hook flew up and snagged onto his leg in midair. Managing to grab on the edge of the eaves trough, he was left holding on for dear life as a guard at the other end of the grappling hook tried to pull him down. Several guards clamored together and gave a big yank on the rope, rending Dirk from trough and limb. He fell right on top of the guards, breaking one of their necks. Another's back was severed, and the third was knocked out cold in the process, thereby successfully breaking his fall. Dirk stood up, a little woozy from the fall, and noticed the chaos. Why is this happening? Seriously, what are the odds of all this happening in one day? As Dirk muttered to himself, the eaves trough gave way along with parts of the wall. The rubble vented its anger on the fallen guards. He threw up his arms up in frustration. That's just great. Now I really need to get the hell out of here. And with that, he escaped the guards. Chapter